What is up, Brownsbridge Inside Out? How are we feeling tonight, everybody? I am so glad. Leaders in the room, are y'all okay after that tough loss? How's morale? Okay, yeah, there we go. Can we give it up for our leaders one more time, everybody? Yes, for their valiant effort. Yes, I have been on that side of things before 2 years ago. I got to play in the game myself and actually wiped out, like our friend did over here on the court, and airballed many a shot. So I relate with you. I feel your pain, but well done. It was an enjoyable and very entertaining game to watch. But guys, I'm honored and excited to be here tonight for Jersey Jam. My name is Ashlyn, for those of you that I have not had the chance to meet yet. And if it's your first time with us here at Brownsbridge Inside Out, you picked a great night to come. I mean, a free basketball game and some popcorn and just getting to hang with amazing people, enjoying worship, and you're going to get to have an incredible small group time, and I'm told a gotcha competition later. So we are super glad that you're here, and I genuinely mean it that I really, really hope you come back, because there's no better place to be than Brownsbridge Inside Out, that's for sure. But tonight we are continuing on in this series called In God We Trust. This is actually part 3 of this series. And so in this series, we have been diving into what it means to be generous. And we've talked a lot about money up until this point, and we are going to take it a step farther tonight. But before we get into it, in honor of Jersey Jam and in honor of the March Madness season for all who celebrate, I figured that I should give you guys a little bit of insight into what my personal relationship with basketball is like. And let me tell you, it's a little bit complicated, but that's okay. I'm going to put this picture up on the screen. This was my high school basketball team. You heard earlier tonight that I am from none other than a school called Bob Jones University. Fun fact for you, there is a high school connected to there called Bob Jones Academy, which is what the BJA stands for on these jerseys. I'm in this corner up here, and yes, I look exactly the same today as I looked back then because I have not switched the side part, and I will wear that proudly, so I do not want to hear your hate. But I loved this team. I love playing basketball, with the exception of the shorts. I don't know if you can see, but you cannot see a single, maybe this one, but barely any knees, because the school that I went to said that our shorts had to come to the bottom of our knees. Not only for basketball, but for volleyball as well, which I also played in high school. So talk about complicated when you're wearing a knee pad and your short goes over it and you dive, and then, I almost lost my shorts a time or two in both sports, but that's okay. We have made it far from here. But I show you this picture because this is the highlight for me. This is the glory moment. But in full transparency, when I first tried out for the team, things did not look this glorious. No, see, this particular Christian school that I went to was a smaller school, and so they did not actually have a junior varsity team. They only had a varsity, and I really, really, really wanted to play. But that meant that as a freshman in high school, I was going to have to make the varsity team, which should not be that complicated because it's a Christian school. And let's be honest, they're not as good at basketball as public schools anyways. But besides the point, I was excited. I'd worked hard all summer. I'd played some intramural sports, some pickup sports throughout elementary and middle school. So I was you know what, I'm ready. I'm ready for this tryout week. I'm going to give it my all. I was a pretty scrappy player, maybe not the smartest player, but, I would foul a few people and occasionally steal the ball. And so I go into tryout week, and I literally am putting it all out on the court, or so I thought. Day after day after day, 2-hour tryout here, 2-hour tryout there. And it was within the span of a week, and I knew that at the end of this week, our entire team list was going to be posted. And it was going to be posted in the center of the school. Anyone in here seen High School Musical, the first one? Okay. This is what it felt like. When the callback list is posted and it's in the front center of the school and everyone crowds around it, this is what you need to be imagining for what I was about to experience. We hit noon on a Friday, and I see people just swarming to the center of the school where this massive bulletin board is. I see the coach about to walk in, has the piece of paper. It's going to be guys and girls varsity team, has the piece of paper in their hand. And at this point, I'm shaking and I'm sweating because I've worked so hard all week, and I wanted this more than anything in the world my freshman year of high school. So the coach walks up, pins that sheet to the board, and people just flood it. And so I'm trying to move past people, trying to see. I'm not the tallest person in the world, so I was really struggling over here, but finally made it up to the front. And here's the thing about my name. My first name is Ashlyn. My last name is Stevens. So if it's in alphabetical order by first name, I would be at the top of the list. If it's in alphabetical order by last name, I would be close to the bottom. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to start at the top and read down. And so I start going and looking through, and I'm like, okay, I don't see Ashlyn anywhere. And I step away, and I'm like, well, maybe they did the order wrong. So then I start from the bottom, and I start looking up, fully expecting my name to be on this list because I had worked so hard. And sure enough, it just was not there. I didn't cut it. I didn't make the team. Humbling, I know, because it's a Christian school basketball team. But I didn't make it. And so in that moment, I felt like my face just went white. And all of the people around me, I felt like every eye was on me. And I just got a few pats on the back. And I was like, I got to get out of here. So I sprint out of that front building and make it to a sidewalk where I thought I was alone at the time. And I just lose it and just start crying. Because everything that I had worked for and hoped for at this particular point in my basketball career just came crashing down. And in this moment, I will never forget what started running through my mind. And it was this particular phrase of, I don't have what it takes. I don't have what it takes to make a Christian school basketball team. I'm not fast enough. I don't have good enough shooting skills. I don't have good enough dribbling skills. Obviously, I'm not even confident enough to play a smart game on the court. I don't have what it takes to make this team. And in that moment, all that I wanted to do was run away, hide myself, completely isolate from everyone else around me because I was so embarrassed and I was so humiliated and I was also so brokenhearted and disappointed that I didn't want to be near anyone. But as you've seen from that other picture that I showed you, I did end up making a team. It was just a year later. But if I had stuck to what I felt in that exact moment of wanting to hide and wanting to retreat, I never would have gotten there. But because I had good people in my life who cared about me, they pushed me to get back out there and to try again. I did end up making the team a year later. But I never would have gotten there if it wasn't for them. And I also don't think that I'm the only one in this room that has ever thought this or ever felt this. No, you guys have all been in seasons where you have tried out for something, you've auditioned for something. Maybe you're just trying to win that friend over or win that hopefully significant other over. Maybe you've studied for a test or an AP exam or whatever it may be. Maybe you have applied to that particular college that you've been dreaming of for so long. And the results come back and you didn't cut it. You didn't make it. You didn't get that friend. You didn't get that position. You didn't get to play that part. And so you step back, and in that moment, you're thinking, I don't have what it takes. In that moment, you feel like a failure. And if you're not careful, you begin to let this lie ruminate in your brain and then eventually take root in your heart. And if you're not careful, it will not only affect that particular isolated experience in your life, but it will begin to affect your entire life where all you want to do is hide. And you want to put up these barriers because you're trying to self-preserve. You're trying to keep yourself safe from future rejection and future disappointment. And so you no longer put yourself out there and you no longer take a leap of faith because of this experience that you've had and because you've let this lie take root in your heart. And so, yes, this affects your sports teams and your performances and your productions and maybe your grades at school. But something else that this affects is your heart to give and your heart to serve, which may seem like a little bit of a stretch. But we're in this series talking about being generous and being willing to give of both your money and of your time and of your skills and of your talents. And I think so many of us disqualify ourselves and count ourselves out so fast because we're like, hey, I don't have what it takes. I don't have a job that's good enough to make this amount of money to be able to give. I don't have the leadership qualities that it would take to serve in this particular position. I don't have the personality that it would take to serve in this particular position. Or maybe I don't have a friend that's willing to come along with me, and so I don't want to step out on my own, so I'm scared. So you immediately disqualify yourselves. You put up all of these barriers, and you say, I'm out. That is a sad place to live because I truly believe that when you are willing to give and when you are willing to serve, there is so much that God has to offer you. And when you immediately say no, you are going to miss out. But like me in the basketball team, I know it's not easy to push past this. No, I know that I needed people in my life for something as simple as a basketball team to push me and challenge me and encourage me to keep going and to break free from this lie. And so tonight, I want to do the same exact thing with each and every one of you in this room. Aren't you glad you're here? I'm going to push you a little bit, so buckle up, everybody. But tonight, we're going to look at a passage of Scripture in the book of Matthew. And this particular passage of Scripture is a teaching of Jesus known as a parable. Which a parable is simply a very simple story that would have taken different events and activities that the people related to at the time. So if they were farmers, he would have been talking about farming. Or if they were learning how to deal with their money, he would have talked about money or different relationships or different things that would have applied to the people at the time when Jesus was speaking. He's like, hey, I'm going to tell you a story simple enough that you understand that will actually explain a very profound truth that has to do with the kingdom of God. And so tonight we are going to look in Matthew 25 at one of these parables. And so I want to set the stage for you. This particular parable that we are going to read tonight has to do with a master and his 3 servants. And now this master knew that he was going to go away for a time. And so he decided, hey, I'm going to take some of my estate, some of the money, some of the belongings that I have, and I'm going to entrust some of it to these 3 servants. That way, while I'm gone, they will protect it, they will steward it well, and I will come back and I will be better off than when I left. And so he has one servant. He's like, hey, I'm going to give you 5 bags of gold, or otherwise in some biblical translation known as 5 talents, which I did a little bit of research on this, and there's a lot of speculation as to how much a talent was worth or this bag of gold. But what some people have studied and come up with is that just one bag of gold, 1 talent, would have been enough for 20 years of a baseline daily wage. Now that is a lot of money, times 5. So he gives all of this money to one servant, and he brings the second servant in, and he's like, hey, I'm going to give you 2 bags of gold. And then he brings in a third servant. He's like, hey, I'm going to give you 1 bag of gold. And the master leaves for a time. He has entrusted so much of his estate, so much of his wealth to these servants, and I want you to see what happens. We're going to look in verse 16. It said, the man who received 5 bags of gold went at once and he put his money to work and gained 5 bags more. So also the one with the 2 bags of gold gained 2 more. But the man who had received 1 bag went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. So as you can see, these are 3 different servants with 3 different allotted amounts of money entrusted to them. And they take 3 different approaches. Well, I guess really the first 2 take the same approach. They're just utilizing a different amount of money. But the third servant, he looks at it and he's like, hey, this is a lot of money. Yes, it's 1 bag, but keep in mind, if what I have read is true, it would be around 20 years worth of a daily wage. Like, this is a lot of money that he's been entrusted with. And he's so nervous and scared that he decides to not do anything with it because he doesn't want to lose it. And so he hides it in hopes that when his master comes back, he will just be able to give him what he had given him to begin with. And so we keep reading, and it says, after a long time, the master of those servants returned, and he settled accounts with them. The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I have gained 5 more. He's so proud of himself. And it continues on. It says, his master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. So I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share in your master's happiness. Now, I don't know if I would agree that it's a few things. I mean, this man has a lot of money right here. I would love to have that much money. But what his master is saying is, hey, I have entrusted you with this amount of my wealth, and you have worked hard with it. You've taken risks, but you've been wise. And so as a result of you being able to step out in faith and make wise decisions and actually go to work, you have doubled this. And therefore, I'm saying, well done. And I'm saying, hey, now you can come and enjoy this with me. And then we continue on and we see At the man with the 2 bags of gold, he also came and he said, Master, you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold. See, I've gained 2 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things, so I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. But then we get to the 3rd servant. And it says, then the man who had received 1 bag of gold came. Master, he said, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not yet scattered seed. So I was afraid, and I went out and hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. In this moment, this last servant, he was so scared of taking this step of faith, of stepping outside of his comfort zone, that he did nothing with it. And as a result, he really has nothing to offer. Yes, he has exactly what was given to him, but his master had trusted him with so much that he expected so much more. But he didn't have anything to give back to him because he was fully functioning out of fear, because he fully believed that lie that we were talking about at the beginning, that I don't have what it takes. I don't have what it takes, so therefore, in order to attempt to keep you happy, I'm going to do nothing with it, and I'm going to hide it in hopes that I can present to you the bare minimum when you return. And I'm sure you could guess, but the master was not thrilled with this response because he had trusted him, because he actually had believed in him. He would not have given this servant so much of his wealth if he didn't. And guys, I have read this story countless numbers of times, truly. And a lot of times I've read it and then kind of walked away and I'm like, that's great, like what a cool story, but like I don't relate with this at all because I don't got that much money. Now, if any of you in here want to give me 20 to 100 years worth of my salary, I will gladly take that and then I will feel differently. But oftentimes I haven't been able to relate to it until I took a step back this time in reading and I was like, hey, yeah, maybe I don't have 100 years worth of my salary, but I do have a good family and I do have amazing friends. I have an incredible church in my dream job as of this point. I have a dog that I love and I have people that I love to spend time with. And so in that regard, I really am rich. God really has entrusted me with so much. He's given me the community and he's given me joy. And he's also given me a certain personality and certain talents. And I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that there have been times that I have doubted the way that he made me. But over time, I've come to appreciate, hey, God made me who I'm supposed to be, and that is good. And I believe it is the same for each and every one of you in this room. Sure, maybe you don't have all of this money, but you're here at Inside Out. You're here with an incredible small group and incredible leaders who have chosen to do life with you for 4 years. To be in the good moments and the hard moments, that's incredible. I know a lot of the schools that you attend in this area, and guys, they are good schools. Sure, there are frustrating parts of it. There are probably frustrating teachers or frustrating policies that you're around, but ultimately, these are good schools with people who care about you and are for you. You obviously all made it here tonight, which meant that you had a guardian of some sort drop you off, or you are currently driving their car, or you currently have your own car. Guys, that is a gift that not very many people have. And you are willing to spend your time here because obviously you value what this place has to offer. And you are busy high schoolers that have a lot of work and a lot of assignments, but you are able to make time for something like this because time is also a resource that you have, that you get to prioritize how you spend it. Yes, all of you in here come from different families and different backgrounds. And sure, if you compared, it seems like some have more or less than others, but ultimately, we have all been given so much that I'm so worried we take for granted far too often. But what I want you to see tonight is that you have been entrusted with a lot. And so just like these servants in this passage, you have been entrusted with a lot. And therefore, God has a special calling on your life for you to do more with what you have been entrusted. But oftentimes we tell ourselves that lie of, I don't have what it takes, or I don't have enough, or I'm not good enough, and we count ourselves out when that is just simply not true. And then we run up against a second barrier because maybe we start to realize, no, like I have been given a lot and like I'm really grateful for it, but I don't want to lose it and I'm so scared that I'll lose it. So you begin to hold it with closed fists and you're like, I don't want to give any of this up. Not any of my money, not any of my time. I'm too nervous of what other people will think of me. I'm too nervous to put myself out there, and so I'm going to hold everything so close to my chest. And then we begin to act like this third servant here, where we're not willing to step out in faith. But I want to challenge that mindset tonight, because so often when we begin to hold things so close to our chest and we're not willing to let go and take that step, it is because we truly think that we are an owner of everything that we have. That it is because of us that we have the friends that we have the grades that we have the time that we have the money or the car. We begin to credit it all to ourselves when ultimately, just like these servants, it didn't come from you. No, it came from God himself. So as opposed to an owner of everything, you're actually more like a manager. A manager that has been entrusted with gifts from God himself. And when we begin to flip this script of an owner to a manager, guys, I think it frees us up to do something with what we have been given. Because God trusted you, just like this master trusted all of his servants. God trusted you, and he called you to step out in faith and to give and to serve with what you have been given. And so this lie that I don't have what it takes is just simply not true. And I think back to actually Martin Luther King Jr., and he said a lot of amazing things. He had a lot of amazing teachings, but one of my favorite quotes of his is simply this, that everybody can be great because anybody can serve. Everybody can be great because anybody can serve. He knew what Jesus was even teaching back then of, hey, each of you have been entrusted with so much, so each of you do have the ability and you do have the opportunity to serve. You just have to be willing to do it. You have to be willing to put yourself out there. You have to be willing to give of your time and recognize that you do have the power to prioritize it accordingly, to make serving possible. You just have to take that step of faith. And so over the past few weeks, you've gotten to hear about your generosity commitment cards. And I hope and pray that you have been thinking about those, and that if you've forgotten about it, you'll go back to your leaders tonight and you'll ask more questions. You'll go home and you'll ask your parents, and you'll take it very seriously, because it's an incredible opportunity in front of you to be a part of a bigger story, God's story of how he is at work in the entire world around you. You have the opportunity to make a place like this possible for so many other people across the world. But then secondly, tonight when you get to small group, and then at the end when Beth is going to come back up here before we dismiss, you're going to be presented with a QR code, 2 different QR codes, in fact, that will take you to websites where you'll get to see how you could serve right here within Brownsbridge Church. And then how you can serve in other ways in the community around you. And I'm going to ask that you actually take this seriously, that you actually think, okay, God, what have you given me? How have you gifted me? What time do I have? What talents do I have? And how could I use that for you? And so you're going to get to go to small group, and you're going to get to unpack this with every person in your group. And I'm so excited for what that will be. But when you get there, I want you guys to ask this question and to answer it. And it is simply, what gifts do you see in each other? Like I said, it can be easy for us to look at ourselves and count ourselves out because we say, I don't have what it takes. But I guarantee you, if you were to say that to one of your friends in small group, they'd be like, no, like you're so wrong. Like, of course you have what it takes. And they'd be able to affirm you and encourage you. And so that's exactly what I want you to do tonight. And yes, it may feel a little bit awkward in the moment, but guys, there is so much value in being able to say, hey, I see you and I know you and I want to affirm this in you. And that could spur someone on to taking this next step in their faith journey, and that could change their life forever. And so I want you to take this question seriously in group and to be genuine and honest and kind in your responses. And then the last question I want you to talk about as you're leaving group is simply, what is the best next step for you to take? What's the best next step for you to take? Now remember, just like the servants, not everyone is going to be given the same thing. Not everyone is going to step into the same opportunity. Not everyone has the same personality or the same talents, and that is a good thing. God made each of you so uniquely, but also so beautifully, and he is going to challenge you personally to step into whatever opportunity is best for you. And so I also ask that as you begin to take this leap of faith and to put yourself out there and to have the courage, that you would be willing and you would be open-handed for what that is. And be okay with the fact that it might look different from the person next to you, and that is a good thing because God can use every single one of you. And there are so many different places for you to hop in and serve and give of your time. And so I'm excited for what is ahead for y'all. I am hopeful for what God is going to do. Because yes, it is amazing that you will get the opportunity to serve other people, but you can ask anyone in this room that has already taken that step that they've actually probably gotten more out of it than they feel like they've even put into it. And so I'm excited for what that can look like for y'all. And if you are one of those people that is actively serving in an area right now, my challenge to you tonight is to evaluate if you're still bought into it. And if you notice that you've checked out a little bit, to be reminded that you've been entrusted with so much, you've been entrusted with this opportunity to serve. And so because of that and because it's a good gift, that you should take it seriously and that you should give it your all. And if you started to lack prioritizing it, that you should start prioritizing it again, because ultimately serving is a gift from God. So let me pray for us and y'all be dismissed. God, I thank you so much for this day, and I thank you so much for every single student in this room. I thank you that you are a good God and that you have so uniquely and intentionally and purposefully made every student here. God, I ask that they would hear your voice so loud and so clear tonight that it would be undeniable what they are supposed to do, that they are supposed to take this next step, whatever that looks like for them. So encourage them and challenge them and walk with them as they take whatever step it may be. I thank you so much for who you are to us and your love for us. In your name I pray, amen.